really fascinating to the young guitar players that came around. There was a lot of interesting things going on in there. It took a lot of time for some of us to get it, some longer than others.
Most blues musicians have many stories to tell about getting ripped off while they were on the road. And I wonder if that was any worse for Gary Davis, since he was blind, and it would have been that much easier for people to take advantage of.
Well, he was taking advantage of a lot when he was singing on the streets for many years in Harlem. He'd lose guitars and what have you. First lesson Reverend Davis taught me was we got to our first rooming house out somewhere near Chicago, and Reverend Davis was getting ready to go to bed. He says, "Now, Roy, you got to understand," he said, "we're in a strange city and a strange house here, and I don't like the house much." I said, "Well, how come?" He said, "They're not taking care of this house." I said, "Well, how do you, blind man?" I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Well, the doorknob's loose. I checked it on the way in." He said, "When you go to sleep, the first thing you do," he says, "is you take out your knife." He reached in his pocket and pulled out a knife about 12 inches long. I about had a heart attack. He says, "You take your knife and you put it under your pillow."
This is a
He
knife.
said, "Then you get your pocketbook." And he reached down his long jaws and pulled out his little leather purse. He kept all his money in it. He always traveled with some money. He says, "You put that inside your pillowcase." He said, "Somebody comes for your pocketbook, you know where your knife is. You go to sleep with your hand on your knife." And he goes to sleep. Next morning, about 5:30 in the morning, Reverend Davis is screaming, "Good God Almighty, Lord have mercy." That could mean anything. I said, "Reverend Davis, what's the matter?" I mean, I was in dreamland, get woken up like that. I mean, he was in his 70s, the old blind man, and he was hysterical. I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "They done got my pocketbook." I said, "Oh, Lord have mercy." And we're crawling around the room, and he's screaming, "Who got his pocketbook? How'd somebody get in this room? He knew that door wasn't good. And didn't you hear nobody?" My heart was beating a mile a minute. I'm searching all over this room. Finally, I found his pocketbook under the bed. I says, "Reverend Davis?" He says, "What, Roy?" That's what he always called me. I said, "I found your pocketbook. All money's in there. Don't worry." He said, "Good God Almighty, where was my pocketbook?" I said, "You got to remember something when you go on the road." He says, "What's that?" I said, "You went to sleep real late and you were tired. And I think you put your pocketbook underneath your pillowcase and your knife inside your pillowcase. And you got it mixed up and your pocketbook fell behind your pillow onto the floor." Oh, he had a fit. "Give me that pocketbook. Where's my knife?" Put all this stuff away.
Can you play us a song that you learned from Reverend Gary Davis?
Yeah. Let me play a song that I wrote in the style of Reverend Gary Davis.
Great.
It was a song he always did called "I'll Be Alright Someday," and I loved that song. I always wanted to learn how to play it. Finally figured out the basics of it and came out with a little arrangement. And I decided I didn't feel comfortable singing the words that he wrote for it. It was one of these biblical epics. He had some that went on for 15 minutes, so, you know. And we came out with this. It's called "I'm Going Home Someday." If my road is rocky and my journey's rough, if I stumble and I fall, well, I'll pick myself up, keep marching forward, and I'll drive these blues away. I've been a gambling man, I've been a cheat, I've often lost my way. I've seen the darkness, want to see the light, trying to start a brand new day. Yes, I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm going home someday. Temptation cast aside, won't take no devil ride, I'm going home someday. Wind is blowing hard, rain is coming down, and I can't keep myself warm, but I keep searching for better days and a sheltered port from the storm. I'm going home, I'm going home, I'm home someday. Temptations cast aside, won't take no devil ride, I'm going home someday. Going to see my mother, going to see see my father, going to see my baby brother too. And when I get there, I won't have to worry. I'll know just what to do. I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home, I say. Temptation cast aside, won't take no devil ride. I'm going home someday.
Great song.
Thank you.
Roy Bookbinder, visiting the Fresh Air Studios in 1987. He died March 3rd at age 82. Coming up, Justin Chang reviews the new Ryan Gosling film, Project Hail Mary. This is Fresh Air.
Well, it should be interesting. Except that guy seems
Not supposed to be controversial, and yet the best chef in the world has made a big old mess for a Los Angeles restaurant that's charging $1,500 for a meal. Past allegations of abuse, bullying, general toxicity get in the way. But we thought the food industry already had a big old reckoning. Maybe it didn't work. The drama on the next Today Explained.
A reckoning doesn't mean everybody's
Today at
fixed.
12:30 and this evening at 9 here on the CPR News and KRCC.
Thanks for trying.
If you still have to take a required minimum distribution and you're in a donate some of it, there's another option. Give directly to CPR from your IRA with a qualified charitable distribution. You can satisfy your requirement and avoid taxes on up to $111,000. It's simple and meaningful. Learn more about this giving option at cpr.org/support.
This is Fresh Air. Ryan Gosling played an astronaut 8 years ago in the Neil Armstrong drama First Man. He returns to space in the new science fiction adventure Project Hail Mary. But this time, he's playing a scientist on a lonely mission to save Earth from destruction. The movie was directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller of the animated Spider-Verse series, and it's based on a novel by Andy Weir, author of The Martian. Project Hail Mary opens in theaters this week, and our film critic, Justin Chang, has this review.
I don't want to hear the spoilers.
Hail Mary is about an astronaut who finds himself abandoned in outer space, where he bonds with a cute alien who tries to help him save Earth from climate change. I hate to describe a movie as a mashup of this and that, but sometimes there's no way around it. This film is basically The Martian meets E.T. by way of Interstellar. That's a handy way of summing up its appeal, but it also points to its very real limitations. I had high hopes for Project Hail Mary, but it's the most derivative and carefully manufactured crowd pleaser I've seen in a while. It doesn't feel like storytelling so much as mechanical engineering. Somewhere millions of miles from Earth, an astronaut named Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, awakens from a years-long coma to find himself all alone on an unmanned spacecraft. The two other astronauts on board are dead, and Grace has temporary amnesia, with no idea who or where he is. It's a fairly chilling premise on paper, but from the start, the movie plays the situation for laughs. Grace flails and falls all over the place. Gravity is in full effect. But although Gosling is a nimble physical comedian, I had trouble buying his performance. Grace might be all alone in space, but he seems to be mugging for the camera, as if he knew there was an audience watching him. In time, Grace's memories begin to return. In regular flashbacks, we see him back on Earth, teaching middle school science. He's approached by a government official named Ava Strout, a terrific summer reporter, who wants to recruit him for a top-secret mission called Project Hail Mary.
Oh my gosh, he's already only told us the beginning.
Years ago, Grace was one of the most important molecular biologists.
I just don't understand why they think.
US.
Why does NPR think a movie review is telling everybody what happens in the movie?
By aggressive microbes called astrophage. If nothing is done, the resulting global cooling will wipe out a huge chunk of Earth's population
That's global
within
cooling.
2 decades. Grace was chosen to join a crew of astronauts who would venture into deep space, seeking a solution to the astrophage problem. Now, with his colleagues dead, Rocky really is Earth's last hope. Before long, the movie's ET component kicks in. Grace meets an alien from another spaceship.
Why do they have to
who
tell
looks
us
a bit
everything?
like a crab made of sandstone, and whom he nicknames Rocky. Rocky's home planet Earth is also being threatened by astrophage, and in time he and Grace become friends and team up to save their respective worlds. That isn't easy since Rocky and Grace don't speak the same language, but Grace devises a clever communication system using laptop voice translation software. In this scene, Rocky, that's the gifted puppeteer James Ortiz doing the voice and movements, encases himself in a protective airtight ball and comes aboard Grace's ship.
Hi, Grace.
You're in a ball.
So Rocky, no die in Grace atmosphere. I come up.
Oh, you're good.
Foreign detected.
Grace and Rocky, big science. How to kill astrophage together. I keep going this way. This room's boring. Science. Save Earth. Save air. It's good plan. What's this down here? Question. Amazing. Rocky want to see human technology. Dirty. Why room so messy?
Well, I wasn't expecting company, was I?
Like The Martian, Project Hail Mary was adapted by the screenwriter Drew Goddard from a novel by Andy Weir. But any comparison between the two only makes The Martian look better. In that 2015 film, the director Ridley Scott let the comedy rise naturally from an inherently tense and suspenseful story. But Project Hail Mary was directed by the duo of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who specialize in zippy irreverence. I've loved many of their earlier comedies, from 21 Jump Street to the Lego Movie, and also their work as producers.
Lego Movie's great.
And Spider-Verse films.
And the Spider-Verse movies are great.
Here, they've made a buddy comedy about saving the world. And although Rocky and Grace's bond has a lot of charm and moments of deeper connection, it's also more than a little exhausting. The tone of the story is so flippant, and the emotional beats so preordained, that the larger stakes pretty much evaporate. It's as if the filmmakers had cooked up an elaborate world-threatening scenario just so that our protagonist could go off and have a close encounter of the therapeutic kind. You could say something similar
like how
about
every-
Interstellar, but Christopher
say
Nolan's
similar about how
film had an
everybody
operatic
treats
power
climate change in
and a crazy conviction
in
that
America
compelled
anyway.
you to believe in it. Project Hail Mary feels glib and earthbound by comparison. It has a couple of strikingly shot set pieces, including a harrowing visit to another planet that might hold the key to survival. But the movie, for all its wondrous production design, doesn't have the hypnotic visual power of the best space epics. It never clues you in to what Grace must surely, on some level, be experiencing. The terrifying vastness of outer space, and the fear of never being able to find your way home.
Justin Chang
I
is
just
a
get
film
really
critic for The
bored
New
with
Yorker.
their
He reviewed
movie
Project Hail
reviewers
Mary,
that just
starring Ryan Gosling.
tell you a whole
On
lot about
Monday's show,
the plot
actor
of the
Riz
movie
Ahmed on his new Prime Video
unnecessarily.
series, Bait, playing a British Pakistani
I guess that
actor
makes people want to
auditioning
see it,
to be
or
the next James Bond.
lets people know what to
He's
expect.
also a writer and creator
or
on the
something.
series. And he stars in a new film adaptation of Shakespeare's Hamlet. Hope you can join us. For Terry Gross and Tanya Mosley, I'm David Biancourt.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Imaginable Futures, funding programs in the U.S. with the goal
Denver
of
in the
ensuring young
distance.
children and their parents get the education they need to thrive.
Behind that truck. So.
Learn more at imaginablefutures.com. And from the estate of Joan B. Kroc, whose bequest serves as an enduring investment in the future of public radio and seeks
Right,
to help
see it.
NPR produce programming that meets the highest standards of public service in journalism and cultural expression.
Growing up in Colorado, Sarah Murphy wanted to be an astronaut or a professional tap dancer. But Sunday evening, her ultimate choice of profession was rewarded.
The Oscar goes to one battle after another.
That movie
Film
was
producer
terrible.
Sarah Murphy talks about her journey from Crested Butte to Hollywood. Find the
congratulations,
Colorado Matters conversation at CPR.
That was not a great movie. A washed up revolutionary.
This is
You just
CPR
got all
News,
this promotion because it
90.1
was
FM
about
KCFR
washed
Denver,
up
1490
revolutionary.
AM KCFC
They wanted to
Boulder,
make it seem
on
like
HD at 90.1 FM at
being a
CPR.org
revolutionary
and
certainly
on your
leads
smart
to being
speaker.
washed
Say
up.
play
They
CPR
love
News.
talking about that.
Support comes from Common Spirit Health, hospitals,
And they were
clinics,
just
and
so
caregivers
inept.
committed to advancing healthcare with clinical excellence and human kindness in Colorado.
Everybody supposedly
Kansas,
doing
and
the
Utah.
revolution was just
Common
so
Spirit
crap.
Health. Human
Running Man
kindness
was so
lives
much of
here.
a better
A
kind of
musical instrument
Antifa type
brings
movie
most joy when it's being
than
played.
what's it
If
called,
yours
One
is
Battle
played
After
in
Another.
storage, give it
And just
to
a better,
purpose.
more fun
Bring
movie
music
in
to
general.
life is an instrument drive
And
that
Sinners was a
benefits
way better
underfunded
movie
school
than One Battle
programs.
After Another. So I know that Running Man wasn't up for Best Picture. I was just saying it was a better like Antifa movie. And Sinners was just a way better movie all around. I don't know how they could give all that stuff to One Battle After Another, other than it makes being Antifa look bad. It was stupid and long.
Restaurant in the history of food until it announced its closure in 2023. We covered the story back when the restaurant's lead chef Rene Redzepi said fine dining had become unsustainable. But now Redzepi is back. He's got a pop-up restaurant in Los Angeles for just 16 weeks. If you're willing to fork over $1,500 per diner, you can have that Noma experience without even having to travel to Copenhagen. What a deal! Everyone must be super stoked, right? Of course not. Old allegations of abuse are raining on Noma's parade. We're going to talk about the cult of the abusive chef on the show today.
Live from NPR News, I'm Neil. Every week of the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran, more American Marines are on their way to the Middle East. And as NPR's Quill Lawrence,
They were leaving.
2,000 Marines are being deployed.
The USS Boxer group of 3 ships carrying thousands of Marines from the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit has left California and will take about 3 weeks to reach the Gulf, according to 2 U.S. officials who were not authorized to speak publicly.
Why doesn't
That's in
anyone
addition
want
to
us
the
to
USS Tripoli group with more than 2,000 Marines expected to arrive soon from Japan. CENTCOM would not comment on the deployment or its mission, but Marines are traditionally ground troops. For Lawrence, NPR News.
The average price of regular gas in the U.S. is now $3.91. Now, NPR's Camilla Dominowski reports that internet search data show more people are considering electric vehicles.
Since the start of this month, the war in Iran has pushed gasoline
Way to
prices
sell
up
electric
sharply.
vehicles,
And
Donica
on the
Patinsky.
RSA Edmonds, the share of shoppers considering electric vehicles grew about 15% to its highest level all year. Now, searching for a vehicle is not the same as buying one. There are lots of factors in a purchase. Ivan Jury is the director of Insights at Edmonds.
The answer to, $5 gallon gas is not buying a $50,000 car, but it's definitely something that you should put in your consideration set.
But analysts say if prices remain high, it can push shoppers to put a higher value on fuel savings as they choose vehicles. Camila Dominowski, NPR News.
The Department of Justice is seeking to dismiss charges against 2 former Louisville police officers involved in the deadly 2020 raid on Breonna Taylor's apartment. Louisville Public Media's Roberto Roldan.
Of course, our racist Department of Justice would do that.
Are facing misdemeanor charges for allegedly lying on a search warrant. The charges were initially brought by federal prosecutors under President Joe Biden, who argued that Janes and Meany included false information in the warrant application, directly leading to Taylor's death. The case has run into trouble in recent years. The federal judge has downgraded the charges against the 2 former officers twice, and the DOJ, under President Donald Trump, has backed off prosecuting any of the officers involved in the raid. The lawyers representing Janes and Meany are not opposing the dismissal, but it still needs to be approved by the judge. For NPR News, I'm Roberto Roldan in Louisville.
A federal judge Friday blocked the Trump administration's policy that limits news reporters' access to the Pentagon. In his ruling, U.S. District Judge Paul Friedman said key portions of the new rules are unlawful because they illegally restrict the press credentials of reporters who refused to follow the new rules. The New York Times sued the Pentagon and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in December, saying the policy violates the reporters' constitutional rights to free speech and due process. The market dropped across the board on Friday. The NASDAQ was hit the most, down 2%. The Dow was down almost 1%. And you're
Fuck your
listening to
stocks.
NPR News.
Trump's destroying the country.
A major
including the stock
humanitarian
market.
effort aimed at Cuba is now underway. Hundreds of
You're getting
delegates
what
from
you get.
33 countries, including the U.S., are arriving on the island nation this weekend and delivering some 20 tons of aid. An advance group arrived on Wednesday, bringing supplies for hospitals. Cuba has been on the edge of collapse since President Trump imposed an energy embargo in January.
Edge of collapse.
A new study
Hello,
finds that
Bella.
humans and animals have shared
to meet
acoustic tastes. NPR's Nate Rock.
We shared
has
acoustic
more.
tastes.
Animals make a lot of sounds to attract mates, and scientists know that some are more effective than others. Take the Pacific field cricket. That call is less appealing to other crickets than this one. And it turns out, according to the new study published in the journal Science, it's more appealing to people too. Scientists have 4,000 volunteers listen to pairs of calls from 16 different species and pick which ones they prefer. Like, do you prefer this song sparrow? Or this one? Overall, humans agreed with the animals' preferences. We share a sense of beauty with the natural world.
Oh, that's sweet.
Nate Rott, NPR News.
President Trump is now getting involved in college football. He issued an executive order Friday that bars the college football playoff and other postseason football games from airing during the annual Army-Navy matchup, which takes place on the second Saturday of December. The NCAA has been considering an expanded playoff system that would likely require an earlier start to the postseason games. I'm Dale.
What the crap?
NPR News.
Dude, why is Trump so damn
Support for
Trumpy all the
NPR
time?
comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the
Why is
Lemelson
Donna
Foundation,
Kapuscinski just
working to harness the
Putin
power
about
of invention
everything?
and innovation to accelerate
Everything
climate
he
action
does is so
and improve
Putin.
lives around the world. Learn more at lemelson.org.
Putin shut off the
This is
internet in
NPR.
Russia because he's killing his generals. They're all
chef.
defecting
Yes, chef.
and defying
No,
him.
chef.
They'll probably do the same thing here in America.
Today explains Sean
Donna
Ramos from here with
Kapuscinski.
Stephanie Brajo. She's a reporter for the Los Angeles Times food section, and there's one big story in food world right now. Rene Redzepi, the top chef of top chefs.
Trump will
He's
probably
the
turn
final
off our
boss
internet.
of fine dining chefs. I mean, he is
The final boss of fine
he is the
dining.
Bowser. I mean, he is one of the most famous chefs in the world, like indisputably.
What was his name?
He's entirely influential.
Flowers, moss, ants. Not exactly what you might expect to find on your plate. Unless, of course, you're at Noma.
And they even use the brain of reindeers to create this omelet.
He sort of
Don't do that.
proliferated New Nordic cuisine in terms of how much foraging and fermenting sort of came to the forefront in the last 20 or so years of fine dining.
I remember the first time I went foraging. I'll never forget that sensation of suddenly realizing what I was surrounded by. I was like, oh, I'm actually standing in the middle of all this food.
He's now, influenced multiple generations of chefs at this point over the last couple of decades.
And so, the question, how does this nice, down-to-earth guy rise to the top of the food world, all while presenting things that no one could possibly think would taste that good?
Rene Redzepi is, the words genius, I think, would not be inappropriate here. He's just one of those people.
He led Noma to a 3 Michelin star ranking. He's been knighted by, the Queen of Denmark. This is a very influential figure in the culinary world.
And he's been accused of some ish.
Yeah, there are a lot of allegations, and I should say that a number of them started trickling out a few years ago. But in February,
Why didn't you lead with that instead of glazing him like a ham?
He was the former head of the fermentation lab. His name is Jason Ignacio White. He began posting Instagram, screenshots basically of these anonymous, allegedly former Noma staff and interns who were sharing their stories.
Noma destroyed my passion for the industry. Noma broke me in so many ways.
Everyone told me to just look away.
And he was also talking about his own experience alleging abuse, specifically mostly under Rene Redzepi.
For over 2 decades, the culture surrounding Rene Redzepi and Noma has been celebrated without confronting the true harm countless workers have experienced behind the curtains.
Earlier this month, there was a years-long report from the New York Times from reporter Julia Malskin, who had spoken to, over the course of years, 35 former Noma staff. And at this point, those are some of the stem from years ago. And, there are a number of Noma apologists and sympathizers who say, well, this happened years ago and they've since changed their ways. Rene Redzepi himself has been open about his, anger issues. He wrote an essay about it for a food magazine called Lucky Peach in 2015.
One day the lid came flying off. The smallest transgression sent me into an absolute rage. Why the hell have you not picked the time correctly? Why have you overcooked the fish? What is wrong with you? Suddenly, I was going crazy about someone's mise en place or some small thing they said wrong.
A mise en place?
This is how I had been taught to cook, and it was the only way I knew to get a message through. I can't say that it didn't work for a time.
Who taught you, Gordon Ramsay?
Succeeded beyond whatever I could have imagined for it.
There was also, a 2008 documentary called Noma at Boiling Point that really discusses his anger in the kitchen. It shows him berating his staff. These are things that have been discussed. And I think right now there's a big question of reforming the restaurant industry and can a person change? Can the industry change? Can a restaurant change? Can that hostility and that sort of ambience?
Were there any consequences for it?
Ever really change?
Is the middle right there?
Yes, sir.
So are you know that the middle is right there. Shut up and just let me be finished. I'm gonna go crazy on you, okay? What is it you don't understand? First you finish the dishes. Is that clear?
Why do they all want to be Gordon Ramsay?
So Redzepi has responded to his behavior before. Is he having to respond to his behavior again?
Yeah. Yes, and yes. So some of these allegations more vaguely were covered a few years ago.
Well, let's not talk about the allegations against Trump, though. I mean, it's been 10, 20 minutes of this report about a chef.
Quote unquote day-to-day activities.
When we have allegations against Trump, you could be reporting on, and the rest of the Epstein class.
The pop-up here. When this came out on the evening of the protest, sort of late afternoon, early evening, he released a statement saying that he, in fact, would now be leaving Noma, again, using the word stepping away. He not only released a statement, but he released a video that has also somewhat been controversial. Because it's like a docu-style sort of video of him addressing the staff.
I'm sorry everyone is in this situation. I really, really am.
And he explains that, all of this is happening and it must be very hard for the staff. And he apologized to his staff and he said he would be stepping away because there's too much attention on him.
Because it's so much focused on me, I have to remove myself.
And he's sort of giving the restaurant over to his staff at this point.
This is your restaurant now. Each and every one of you.
But then at the end, he says,
for me, I'm going into planning the next phase.
I'll just own
there's
it
a lot of
and profit.
Curiosity and confusion as to what that next phase
actually gave them a share of the restaurant.
And meantime, how's the restaurant world responding to maybe their, most accomplished chef being a total arse?
There are a lot of chefs that I've spoken to who, of course condemn this, but they feel torn because they knew him personally, or maybe they've worked with Noma. They've traveled to Copenhagen in the last few years. One chef told me that, he's trying to square what he saw in the kitchen there, which he felt was a very welcoming and nurturing atmosphere with, of course, these allegations of, apparently what the kitchen culture there was like, years ago. So, and then of course there are chefs who are outright, outcrying and saying this is never acceptable. We should never have, put any chef on a pedestal.
I don't really think that this is the time to be making excuses for, apologizing for, enabling, or uplifting people who've had such abusive pasts.
We literally are putting these people at God tier level because of what they do in the kitchen. And they're exploiting people, and they're abusing people, and they're getting...
But it is bigger than just Rene Redzepi as well. This is not just Redzepi and Noma. This is addressing an entire kitchen culture that for years has been, rife with stress and high tempers and cramped situations. And sometimes it can become a powder keg. But there are a number of voices who have, tried to change that culture over the last few years, especially as conversations like this have been coming to light.
With all that said, with all the blowback and the protests and reactions from around the restaurant world, how's it looking? Can I get a reservation for next week?
You very much cannot. So, I know it's really heartbreaking, but it's
I guess I'll have to keep my 50.
Toe Jam and Earl music come on.
Put it into anything else at this point. I spoke with Pablo Soto, the head chef of Noma, and he said they're fully booked up for the 16-week run. So
Wow.
there are no seats, and I have in fact spoken to a few diners who had reservations and planned on keeping them because they said these are allegations of abuse that had occurred in the past. He's apologized. One diner said, you know, I follow a lot of sports teams and they have problematic players, so why is fine dining different? Why morally
What about
would
the
this
White
not
House,
be
though?
in the same vein? So
How about just the
it's
White
been,
House?
again,
Starting
a
wars
range
and killing
of
kids
responses
and
from chefs, from the
killing
dining
kids.
community,
And
from
what about
diners
that?
themselves. I think I've heard it all at this point.
Just toe jamming girl music. Damn. About to level up. Have to use some high tops.
Stephanie Bradshaw, read her stuff at
All right, see y'all later.
LAtimes.com/food. So, are we the problem? Do we like our chefs with a side of intensity? We're gonna ask a food critic when Today Explained is back up.
Man, y'all are gonna keep talking about this? We have abusers in the White House and you're just gonna keep talking about one restaurant with abuse allegations for like 20, 30 minutes? National Putin Radio? Nazi Putin Radio?
Today Explained
It's
is supported
terrible.
by Seed.com.
I'm trying to
Seed's
report on something.
DSO1
You
is
could,
a
like,
24-strain, 2-in-1 probiotic and prebiotic
achieve an
engineered
important
to survive
difference by
digestion,
reporting
support
on it.
healthy regularity.
Oh well. It's my fault for listening to it, I guess.